you come down, you may not be able to say where you were, but you come down absolutely convinced that you've passed through some kind of cleansing fire. There's no doubt that the dross of some aspect of you has been burned away. And it isn't, you see, you come down in a series of declensions. 20 minutes after it, you may not be able to say very much, but 5 minutes after it, you'll be thrashing pretty hard to try and say something. It's just that it becomes more and more absurd, almost literally before your eyes. It goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. I mean, you go from having the message, which if you could but deliver it, would lead all mankind to glory, to forget it. Over here.
Primitive cultures in the Amazon you're with, did they ever take ayahuasca as a group? And you mentioned before that a person, when they do it solely, has a song. Did they ever do it in a group where a group had a song? I'm wondering what they might.
Yes, they did. There were songs that are culturally sanctioned icaros as well, that everybody knows, and then people develop their own icaros off of that. So, yeah, the people we were with, we would get together in groups of about 30, and I would say a third of the people would be there with a physical complaint of some sort, in other words, to be cured. A third would be there to learn, meaning to trip for tripping's sake. And a third would be there because it was the most interesting thing going on in the neighborhood, and they would just hang out.
There's quite an experience with undeniable unity you all would experience at that time.
We took it pretty much for granted, but considering how much trepidation I would have if I were to take ayahuasca with 30 of you chosen at random, we thought nothing of it, and we were a pretty tight group. The shaman insisted that Kat and I move in with the village, that we were not to come and go from the town nearby. And so we were part of things 24 hours a day for 5 weeks. And I love ayahuasca people. I think ayahuasqueros are unique people. They have a quality. You can hear it in their voice, actually, that they have attained some kind of authentic status of being that the rest of us are striving toward. Yeah.
I'm just wondering about if you identify a difference between curing and healing. The people who were coming for cure were coming for physical cure, presumably. And healing you may have even while you're physically dying.
True. Well,
to see what you meant by cure.
Well, these categories are not so rigid in the Amazon. For instance, a lot of what they think of as physical problems, we would think of as psychological problems. For instance, a big problem that a lot of Peruvians have is a disease called susto. But only Peruvians get susto. And what it is it's basically bad luck. It's when things go wrong and won't go right. And then people will say, oh, you have susto. You better do something about this. And so there's a lot of curing of that kind of a condition. And then there's a lot of, like, what I would call fairly insightful minor psychotherapeutic intervention. I mean, I remember one woman, fascinating woman. This woman was beautiful, and she was from way in the woods, and she had this amazing voice. And her complaint was an ulcer, and she told the story of this ulcer in the meeting, in this amazing liquid voice in the darkness. And after she was finished, Don Fidel just sat, and then he said, you're having an affair, and you're concerned what will happen when your husband finds out about this. And this is the cause of this pain in your stomach. And she agreed instantly that this was the cause of the pain in her stomach and that she had known it. And, well, now, I don't claim that as an instance of telepathy. I don't think that's what it was. I think it was a very skilled practitioner with a sense of this woman's sexual intensity, the nature of the society. That he just put it together and figured it out, in a stroke of brilliance. But then she abreacted. And went the next several days later, she was obviously in much better shape. It's, behind disease lies language. If you have a material model of disease, then language will not appear to be part of the issue to you. But spending time with these people in the Amazon, everything is about language in a society where magic rules. Because magic is the domain of human concern in which language is empowered, in which will becomes a force that can strike you dead, So in these societies where magic is happening, language becomes everything. And you can cure somebody by simply telling them that you're going to, and then acting as though you had, and the fabric will admit of that sort of thing.
Does everybody have an idea for a song or singing?
Well, if you listen to the styles of ayahuasca singing, it can range over a pretty broad range. It can range from something which sounds pretty much like a takeoff of the Gyaltso monks, that very deep diaphragmatic vibration, to fairly lyrical thing. Not quite, you can't quite dance to it, but I think it's basically that you surrender, and then the song comes through, and the quality of the song resides in the moment. What's always puzzled me is how these people retain these songs, because once one comes through, they never seem to be lost. There may be meter in the song that I'm not aware of that makes it mnemonically easy to keep track of. But I've heard incredible singing, and sometimes the singing is acknowledged to be incredible. I was in an ayahuasca circle once, and songs were sung, and this guy was there who nobody really knew, and he sang a song so amazing that the curing stopped, everything stopped, and the shaman just sat down across from this guy and said, "Teach me this song. We're not leaving till I learn this song." And they sat there till 6:30 in the morning, and he did learn the song, and it was incredible. I mean, even down, it seemed psychedelic. It seemed impossible. The liquid gliding, the strange language with these glottal stops and then these liquid glissandos. It was impossible to imitate. That's why it took even the shaman hours to commit it.
The ayahuasca composition.
It depends on the area of the Amazon, but it is usually either Psychotria viridis, which is a small bush in the Rubiaceae related to coffee, or it's a near relative of Banisteriopsis coffee in the nearby genus Diploteris cabrorana. For some reason, all the genes that produce harmine, the other Banisteriopsis leonis, produce DMT in that one. So it's the interplay between these two that controls the vision. Other questions? Yeah.
You mentioned the Dura a couple times this morning. I was wondering about the effects of that. And this stuff, administration or inspiration or
Well, remember I said this morning my interests are pretty tightly focused on this tryptamine thing. There are many, many altered states that are possible, and the datura is one of them that's plant-based, that's been traditionally utilized for